Welcome to Under the Bar podcast, episode 9. Incredible. We've got to 9. We've still only got one viewer, Mick. We love you. Ken isn't with us this week. He has been replaced by a brick. You could argue that a brick is more interesting and has more knowledge of rugby league than Ken, but we'll leave it there. We've done something slightly different this week. We've interviewed a real legend of the game, a real pro expansionist who was involved in the Rugby League Conference back in the day in its inception in 97. It proved to be a fascinating hour and a quarter with Julian Harrison. So feast your ears and eyes on this, and we'll see you back in a week or so's time.
Okay, Under the Bar fans, we're here today with a legend in his own lunchtime, Mr. Julian Harrison, the man, the myth, the legend, the Rugby League Conference guru, who's going to talk today about a wide range of subjects that he's expert on. And would like to say, and of course, joining us, Mr. Ken Edwards. So, Julian, welcome, my friend.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to be with you guys. Yeah, it is. It's a good place. It's great. Too long, mate. Too long.
It's been too long. That's right. Yeah. Back in the day, we used to knock around, and you know,
we did.
We are
every
both,
Monday morning, mate. We used to have conversations.
Yeah, putting the world to rights. And yeah, as both alumni of Durham University,
absolutely.
May I just add
absolutely.
That to the conversation. You will probably aren't aware of Durham University. It's one of the
elite level here.
Elite level establishments. Ken, yours from the School of Hard Knocks, I believe.
Quite so right. University of Life, mate. Don't you forget it.
No, absolutely.
I was going to say, anyway, before you carry on interrupting there, Gary, I was just going to say to Julian, you're resplendent in your Roosters attire.
I've not worn it for years. So I thought, what? I've got to wear some sort of rugby league shirt. I've got loads of rugby league shirts. I just thought, which one? And I just didn't think. I just got the first one I saw, which was very good. Which was a Sydney Roosters one. So
it's unfortunate it's the Roosters, but still it's a rugby league show. So we'll go with that. But I wanted to quickly, before we're slipping into questions, so I don't know if that means that you're a Roosters fan, but who do you follow here in this country?
Who do I follow here? Hunslet is my team. Hunslet with to be honest, I've slightly drawn towards Leeds, but only slightly, because obviously the North Leeds, South Leeds divide is big. But to be honest with you, I obviously all the development sides that whenever they come up against any of these big ones, I'm for it. So obviously this year, a massive Broncos fan. Come on, boys, got a win, didn't we, the other day? So which is great. So yeah, I'm a lover of the game, I guess. But Hunslet is in my blood, mate.
Well, I think we're a little bit the same, aren't we, Gary? We kind of follow the game more than obviously follow the Broncos, but we follow the game first and foremost. Yeah. We're events guys now, aren't we? Really?
We have become events guys. I don't know if you noticed, Joe, but we went to Vegas.
I saw that,
yeah. Yeah, we went to Vegas, which was sensational.
Rugby league in Vegas, man.
It was something to behold. It really was. And I think the plan is to go again next year, mate, isn't it? To go and visit again. Well, because then the following week I went via Auckland, because my team over there are the Warriors. So I went to see the Warriors, went to see the Wars, lost to the Sharks, which is a shame. And then I went to Australia, meet up with the wife, watched a few games of rugby. She doesn't like rugby, as you know. But anyway, we're digressing.
There we go, mate.
We are all fundamentally expansionists at heart. We love the game. We love the game passionately. So absolutely. I mean, mate, for those who probably aren't aware, do you want to talk the Rugby League Conference? I mean, dates back to 1997. Do you want to just give us a bit of a flavour of the thinking at the time when it was set up and the process and such like?
Yeah, it was a really exciting time, obviously, because obviously this is when Super League had come in and the rights belongs to Super League and all the rest of it. But the big thing, I guess, was obviously turned into a summer game at professional level, and I've been involved with my club here in Leicester for many years, and we were playing during the winter in the old East Midlands League. We were playing teams that we knew like the back of our hand. It was not very pleasant. It was miserable. All those sorts of reasons. And then I linked up with good old Bev Risman. And there were obviously there was some connections, of course, into student rugby league there as well. But Bev was sort of obviously had a role at the Broncos at the time, really important role. And you know, we started talking about, you know, well, if the professional game's gone somewhere, why are we still trying to compete with, you know, other winter sports and playing in rubbish pitches in December and January, you know? So there was that talk. It was just, and I guess lots of things happened really quickly, and there lots of clubs started to intimate or people to me that they might be interested in coming summer.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah.
What was your role at the time? Were you just purely somebody involved in Leicester Phoenix, or did you have something more significant?
No, I had no official role. I was involved with Leicester as I was the chair of the club, and as I say, I had time on my hands because I was leaving some work in academia. Can you believe? A long time ago, and I wanted to sort of, you know, see if there was any, you know, merit in and any impetus for us to play in the summer. And I guess I just sort of, Bev used me in a very good way to sort of do a lot of this ringing round of clubs and stuff like that. And I just sort of put myself forward as someone who wanted to organise something that's slightly different. And just see if it went, because we were dying, you know. It wasn't, you know, every Sunday morning have we got 10 players to go and play up in North Nottinghamshire. No, we haven't. Oh God, we better still go. It was that, and nobody was interested, you know. And then suddenly there was just this spotlight, and I just thought, and Bev thought that, and others as well. Lionel obviously Hurst was there as well, but Hector McNeil, dare I say his name, the legend that is. We were all sort of saying, well, can we make this work? So we thought, you know, well, if we're going to do it, we better get some RFL approval or RFL input into whether this was feasible, and yes, it was. And we just the first bit, obviously the first year was just an experiment. It really was. You know, can it work? You know, is the heat going to be a problem? Is bone hard pitch going to be a problem? You know, are we going to get players that come out of the rugby union season that want to go straight into playing for us during the summer? The travelling. You know, the travelling was obviously a big thing, particularly when we did have some cross division things. So I remember us going to Ipswich, for example, on a Sunday afternoon, which was a journey. So all those things were like, well, are these going to be a problem? Well, the only way we're going to find out is give it a go. So we gave it a go, and we got lots of support from lots of people who from lots of different. Neil Wood, I remember at Student Rugby League was really, he refereed the first ever game. Can you believe?
Wow. What was the first ever game?
The first ever game was Leicester v Birmingham. And it was
big clash.
It was a big clash, and there was, on that first weekend, there was supposed to be 2 games on the Saturday, 3 games on the Sunday, and the other game on the Saturday didn't happen because we had a referee blowout, I think. So it didn't happen. So the only game on the Saturday was Leicester Birmingham, and Neil came down himself. He was in charge of getting referees, I seem to remember. He hadn't anticipated that this was going to be a big problem, and of course it was a big problem. So he came himself, and it was great. But with the first game, we had Ray French there.
Oh, mate, honestly,
it was quality. Like bizarre. There was like, it was like, you know, we had a big banner outside the ground that said Leicester Rugby League, and it was big. And Ray was like, "What's this?" You know, and he says, "Well, this is our banner. We played in this stadium," and so he came down, and of course, the publicity was just out of the world. You know, all of a sudden we were in the National Rugby League press rather than me trying to get some plays on the Mercury, Leicester Mercury. You know, so it was like. And then it just worked, and there were.
And how many teams were involved in that first?
I seem to remember there was 9 or 10
Oh, okay.
I think we did get a full body of 10. And they tended to be obviously clubs that have been around for a little bit. And there was some, East Anglian clubs, so Cambridge were in there. Bedford were a completely new club. I think Bedford Swifts, as they were then.
They were Bedford Swifts, yeah.
But then there was, obviously there was Birmingham in there from our neck. It was Ipswich Rhinos, Dave Flaherty. They were there. So, and the Scholars obviously had sort of made a bit of an inroad and were making those connections into student rugby league that Neil and Bev and myself were keen to start. And we started getting it. Was a bit. I remember coming to training one night. And there were about 40 lads running up and down this pit. And I thought, where have these come from?
Yeah.
And like 20 of them were like Neil Wood had got them from Nottingham Trent University. He says, there's a club down in Leicester. Why don't you go and play? So all these guys came. They later became the Nottingham Outlaws club.
Oh, okay.
But as I say, it was just bizarre. Some of these 40 people training.
Brilliant.
What's going on? So it just proved that with a bit of publicity, not having to compete directly with the other rugby, it suddenly opened up this world that just needed someone to finance, really, and that's it. Sort of happened. Just happened. The game's
that was
happened.
My recollection as well, Julian, at St Albans, that it would seem like when we came in, obviously a little bit later than that initial year. But it just seemed to be a really good time. Things were changing. Dare I say, Britpop was at its height. We had some really good summers. If my recollection serves me well, and all those myths about rugby union players wouldn't want to back up. The grounds are going to be too hard or not covered with sufficient grass. The weather's going to be too hot. They were all dispelled in fairly short order.
Yeah,
and it was a golden age, I think, for amateur rugby league in our part of the world. And I think it led on to really good things. It was a really feel good. I felt a really feel good moment.
It was. I think that's it, Ken. It was a feel good thing, and because we were putting ourselves up as a sort of a bit of an experiment, the publicity. We got a page in the Wembley Cup final programme, and there was pictures of like people from Ipswich in the Wembley Cup. What that never happened, obviously. And I remember also in Leicester, we had a really good relationship with Gary Hetherington actually at the time at Sheffield Eagles, and so we tried to sort of go the South Yorkshire route. Before the Rugby League Conference, Southern Conference League, as it was first called, came in, and we just thought, we don't want to be playing these. We want to be playing big city sides with big city names, and putting different places on the map. And sure enough, from that initial season, you started to get people forming clubs or consolidating clubs that were on the fringes that were already playing, and suddenly it was like, they want to be part of it, they want to be part of it, and it just it was the right time to do it. It really was, and I'm not sure rugby league's ever had that window of opportunity since, to be fair.
Funny enough, mate, that was a question I was going to ask later. Is like, could you ever see that happening again? That level of is that opportunity gone now? That's it. That was the once in a lifetime opportunity to really spread the game properly, if you like. I
think obviously we'd all like to hope that it's not, and that there will be further opportunities. I know obviously the Southern Conference League is what we called it in 1997, and fair enough, we've got the Southern Conference League again, haven't we?
It's come
full circle. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think we were really keen. I remember speaking to Bev a lot, and obviously Lionel as well, that the game grasped this opportunity. It wasn't just us grasping the opportunity; it was the game as a whole, and parts of it did big time, other parts of it didn't, and I think that was the disappointment. probably not a surprise, but
are you referring to Barla particularly, or?
Well, no, not really, because Barla, Ian Cooper at Barla was fabulous for us in terms of all the stuff behind the stuff that we needed to have in place was there. The people at Barla were really, really supportive. Ian was on our Rugby League Conference committee, I think. I seem to remember a thing, but I just think it was just. I remember going to like Barla meetings or meetings of amateur clubs in various parts of the north to talk about what we were doing, and I still got that sort of detection from lots of people that why are you bothering? You know, it's a northern game. It's never going to take off.
Was ever thus, my friend. It still continues.
And it's like, I remember going there. There was one meeting, and this one guy started going on about, well, yeah, but what's your registration procedures? I'm thinking. We're talking about expansion of rugby league, and you want to talk about what we put on the registration forms, you know. And it's like it became really difficult. Not everybody, I hasten to add. There were some people in the amateur game in the north who I think were really, really plus, and Ian was one of them. Maurice Oldroyd was. As well, I have to say, you know, I know he had lots of critics at the time, but he was a big supporter of us. He supported the varsity match. I remember he always used to come down to watch Oxford play Cambridge in London when we did those things for Student Rugby League. So, you know, there were lots of people that were really pushing for this. I just think it started to sort of maybe lose a little bit of momentum when some key people went, and whether it started to sort of get a bit more complicated when the fusion of northern clubs and southern clubs began to happen, and I was always a little bit cautious about this, and maybe I was overly cautious about it. Other people, we want this to happen, and some people wanted to, you know, perhaps push it on too quickly. But by the time that all those things happened, I decided enough was enough.
It's a funny one because then, you know, when we applied as St Albans back in readiness for the '98 season, obviously you've gone through your pilot year with 9 or 10 clubs, and I think we were one of 4 or 5 clubs who'd sort of expressed an interest to go forward. And, you know, to your point, we could see the potential in St Albans and the untapped potential of getting rugby union players to play, and we had northern guys playing and whatnot. But you know, one of the things that you know we really liked about it was very standards driven, wasn't it? We weren't just applying and getting in. We were applying and going through a pretty rigorous process. How many players have you got? Were you playing? Security of tenure, sort of things, like weirdly on a minor scale. We're Super League franchising effectively. We're in a very, very small scale, but significantly reduced. So, I mean, just in that respect, and then when you came into you came off a very successful pilot year. What was the thinking then to go into that sort of second year?
I think that was when we. There was this transformation, I think, because the first season was very much about, the pilot season was very much about, let's get players on a pitch, and let's get games played, and it was very you know, having been involved with Student Rugby League a bit, you know, it was very much like that. Neil Wood was always, let's get games on, you know, in Student Rugby League. If there's disparities in terms of, you know, one team's got 11 and another team's got 17, might be a bit of swapping of players around and that sort of stuff like that. You just make it up, just make it happen, get a ref from somewhere, I think that was very much what initially what the Southern Conference League was about, and I think, to his great credit, you know, Lionel Hurst was a very standards driven bloke, and you know, to the extent,
he was a lawyer, wasn't he? Was he a lawyer?
He was a lawyer, and obviously a very successful guy. He'd been involved, you know, with the Southwest, as Marla and all those sort of things, and Lionel, his standards were really we're on the boil, I think, and to the extent that you know, if a player turned out without, you know, with a different coloured socks to the rest of his team, he would pick up on it, and he would like, you know, socks are not pulled up, you know, this sort of thing, and it was
details.
There was that detail, and I think
important.
we'd never had that. I think, you know, through our, certainly we never had in Leicester, in Imala, we never knew who we were playing one week to the next, you know, and it was like, who we're going to get? Is the kit for it? Yeah. Well, where's the plot? Yeah, is it marked out? Yeah, roughly so. Yeah, it was let's just get games on and get them played. And now it was like, we want games on, but we want people turning up at the right time. You know, we're trying to encourage, obviously trying to encourage things like, you know, minibuses and stuff, rather than players just turning up in a succession of cars that met on the M1 and you know, which so there was a lot of that, and obviously immediately that meant for some clubs that was going to be more challenging than others, and that money became really important, because if we were expecting clubs to do these things, this was pre any notion of, you know, massive club sponsorship. I mean, we had some club sponsors at Leicester, but they didn't go very far, and so I think that was the big. When people began to see, it's not just about turning up on a Saturday and playing a game. You know, you've got to get your match reports in on time if you want to get publicity in this. Your match reports have got to be, you know, not a player scored in the thing. They've got to be who scored, when did they score. When it was that, you know, and Phil was involved. Obviously, Phil Kaplan was involved.
Yeah.
He brought in with all that fantastic knowledge and expertise and drive. People began to see, this is really going somewhere, and obviously that's when some clubs embraced it more than others, and some clubs were able to lead on this, other clubs less so. And I guess that was the sort of start of it, you know, it turning into a bit of a, quite rightly, a standards-driven, brutal competition, in the sense that, you know, if you didn't warrant, or if you didn't merit, and everyone had to apply from one season to the next. If you weren't up to scratch, it didn't matter if you'd won the competition the season before. If you'd not got things in place, then it wasn't a necessity that you were going to get in. And I think that was really pivotal, I think, because where we were going, and obviously, you know, it attracted the likes of you guys, because you saw this is not just, you know,
I thought it was a great
13 blokes running around on a Saturday afternoon. This is actually what we're gonna play. We're representing St Albans, Cardiff, whatever it was. You know, this is really important. It's important that we do this. And I could, even in the first season, in the Southern Conference League season, I remember we had a reporter came down from the local Leicester paper to watch us play Oxford on a early Saturday, and then she was going to Welford Road to watch Rory Underwood's testimonial straight afterwards, and she did this great feature of like contrasting us with what was happening up the road, and she said, but she was brilliant. You know, what she said about our game was, it was great. It was contested. The only thing she picked up on was that Oxford, their kit was loaned from Hull, so they all came onto the pitch in this white and black striped shirts with Hull FC written on the back, and she was like, "Hey, what's going on? I thought these were Oxford." Yeah, they are Oxford, but they've got a link with Hull. They haven't got their own kit. This is the only way they get it. So we were still in that sort of kit loaned by St Helens. Worcester Saints played in Saint shirts. You know, and stuff like that, and so not everybody had even a kit at that point, and but that's where we were going. We were now going, you're not going to turn up with Hull on the back, you're going to turn up with Oxford Cavaliers or whatever it is. And,
you got to start somewhere.
Really
I think we were only recollecting a couple of weeks ago, Bradford Bulls, we turned out with the Vaux kit, because it we that it might have been, I can't remember, it was with Peter Deacon, wasn't it? I think it was through Peter Deacon.
Yeah, Peter Deacon.
And I think we got,
because he was a friend of Lionel's as well.
And I think we met him at the 1895 club gathering in Cheltenham.
Yeah,
you remember that?
That'd be right.
And I think the timings were so. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Anyway. But,
Yeah.
but to a point you just made, I think the press really bought into it, and I know our local press really did buy into it. But then all the I think at the time we had, I think it had become Rugby League World. It may be not rugby still. There was spreads every
Absolutely.
week. There was results. There was team of the week, etc., etc. You had like Steve Kilgallen. You had Phil Kaplan, obviously. Just something struck me. Am I getting my dates wrong or my memory wrong? And was there teletext in those days?
It was. I was just
when our results going on teletext.
The results were going on
teletext.
weren't
they? Yeah.
And that's why we needed them in for a certain time for Phil to collate it and then get it up. So it was up within an hour of the game's finishing on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's a great
we've
example.
Never had that.
That's a great example of minimum standards. The story you were just regaling about Oxford rolling out with Hull FC on the back and how that's noted. We weren't going to be just a pub league anymore, and the minimum standards were going to drive those standards up. And we were really big believers in the minimum standards thing, and
Absolutely.
I think that's why it worked so well in its early days.
Yeah. And I think people recognise that there was a lot of things going in our favour. There was a lot of good publicity. I remember telling our local paper, "Oh, Ray French was here at the weekend." And I said, "What? The Ray French from commentator? Yeah. He's here. Come on down. Come. It was just It just the whole press thing was really important. The publicity was important, and you're absolutely right, Kenny. We ceased to become a pub league. And this was like a proper league with a proper structure. The only thing we didn't have was what happens to those clubs that are the most successful within the Rugby League Conference. There wasn't a national structure for us to say these then need to go into that. And obviously that came after I'd left and came a few years afterwards. So there were teams, and obviously Scholars went down the sort of Bala route, didn't they? And they played in the National Conference League for
I think Hemel did as well,
and Hemel did as well. Because they saw better quality rugby, and of course it was better quality rugby. Did they get more publicity out of it? Probably not. They got more publicity when they played Cambridge, because this is North London versus Cambridge. It's not London Scholars versus Castleford Panthers or whoever they were playing. It really did make a difference.
There was a feeling with the Rugby League Conference that this is new, this is quite vibrant. Where's it going to go? We can do whatever we want because we're not constrained by what we've done before. We're going to make our own traditions, and I think that's why it felt so vibrant and new. We were doing it for the first time. We're going to do it the way we wanted to do it.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think there was a big sense that we were in charge of our own destiny for the first time. We weren't an add-on to the, a bemusing thing like the old Mansfield Marksman Club were back in the sort of 80s when they were sort of, they'd be in the Challenge Cup first round and get stuffed by somebody and but got a Mansfield club in the first round. Now
Kenton
it was like
Victor.
Kenton Victor.
Yeah. All those.
Try of the season, whoever it was.
This might segue rather neatly, but I want to reminisce a little bit. The first game that we played in the Rugby League Conference was at Oxford.
It was,
and for me it was, and I actually referenced this in your book, Rugby League Beyond the Heartlands, which we'll talk about in a second. And how struck I was by the potential in the competition, and we had a big crowd turn up. The weather was great, and it went right down to the wire. I think we won it in about the last 2 minutes with a field goal. It was a really tight, high quality game. There's some fantastic footballers out there. I think a young Darryl Griffin played his first game.
Darryl Griffin played,
we were interviewed by the BBC Oxford radio dude thereafter, and still Steve Kilgallen was down there interviewing people, and I was really struck by the potentiality of it all. It was a fantastic feeling.
Yeah. And I think that that there were some clubs that really did lead the way, and I mean Oxford were one of them, definitely. Because they saw the importance not just of just a game being on, but like refreshments being available, and it was an event. And there were bouncy castles for the kids, and it was just. Can you imagine that in the East Midlands League on a Saturday afternoon
I can't
in
imagine
Bulwell or in
Championship
Leicester or
League
Birmingham?
One clubs, mate.
It just
Right.
wouldn't happen,
I'm going to indulge you boys now. I'm going to try and test a bit of technology. So my wife has criticised me for years about having all these open rugbies and rugby league worlds and this and that and the other. Anyway, I got into the loft and dusted it all off, and it's been absolutely riveting reading this week, right? And I picked some elements that I've read, and I'm just going to share them briefly with you because I think you'll enjoy them. I'm going to try and share my screen, which I hopefully will be able to do with moderate success. And
it's your council tax bill. Yeah.
Can you see that? Can you see that?
Yeah, that is fantastic.
You see that? That is like that was our first Centurions, a little bit Centurion centric. This first letter, just to say, hey, look, we're interested, and off we go. So, Rodney Walker, what a legend he was, honestly. Yeah. Maurice Lindsay, we need to say no more.
Because this was bizarre, Gaddy, wasn't it? Because I remember all of a sudden I was starting to have meetings with these people.
Yeah,
I was in there talking to Maurice Lindsay about the expansion of this, and so Rodney Walker was chairing meetings of which I thought, whoa, what is going on here?
It was serious characters there. Yeah, exactly.
This is serious business,
And then this next one is quite interesting because this was the first meeting that us new clubs got invited to up in Bedford. So there was ourselves, slight typo there, but we'll let you off. Chester, Cheltenham, Northampton. I didn't realise it was Northampton, and then West London. So that was an interesting. But and then lo and behold, there is the letter from your good self to say you're in. You're in, which I think is absolutely sensational.
That's class.
Isn't that good? Isn't that good?
I had to make my own letterheads, of course. I didn't get anything. That was one thing I didn't get.
I'm actually impressed, mate. I'm impressed that we're referencing.
I think this was the kickoff. It references, obviously, it's cut off slightly. But to your point earlier, you had like clubs twinning up. We had like Worcester Saints twinning up, and I think if you read that, I think it said something there about Cheltenham and Gary Connolly in the paper and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. So, mate, honestly, and what else have we got? This is there. It was the kickoff at Westminster, and then me and you were in the background there, Jules.
Look at us there.
It's a bit pixelated there, but Tim Williams is in front of us.
It's Tim Williams in front of us, and Andy Kay from Worcester, I think, is there as well. I can see that. But there we are. Right, my God, don't we look young and smart? Eh?
Mate, honestly, I think those were the days when I could be bothered. And then there's this weird thing, and I didn't quite get it, but it was like the country, and then all these little, and then we go lower, and then we got like St Albans and all that sort of stuff. But all these and the other fascinating thing, and this is definitely digressing, was reading through rugby league worlds and things of years gone by, and seeing development ideas at the time, like how about we go into America? How about this is 20 odd years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where are we? Next one. There was the draw for the first round. And then to Ken's point, there was our first ever game. Oxford Cavaliers, St Albans Centurions. We took the spoils that day. That was pretty special. Darryl Griffin, as you said, Ken. First year champions were Crawley Jets. Little slide aside again. My lad's up at Trent now, playing league for Trent. He's the captain of the club this year. Is none other than Dan O'Reilly, son of Steve O'Reilly. So me and Steve went to a couple of games together, a few pints up in. I think they played Northumbria in a playoff at Kingston Park last year, and me and Steve had a few beers together. So he was on good form. You know what I mean?
Steve O'Reilly being the captain at Crawley Jets.
Sorry, forgive me, and former Barlow Young Player of the Year.
He played for Widnes, didn't he?
He was a fantastic footballer.
He was a good footballer. Then this was just interesting. I'd ask you more for you, Ken. This is like they do these references, and two St Albans players right now. One, there was Ben Morley. He's down at. This is why I was puzzled. He's down as a left winger. That amazes me. And then, what do you remember about Raoul Simmons, mate?
He was a great back row forward for us.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was of interest to the police in the Wheating inquiry when there was the phone tapping. But anyway, that's just another story.
I don't think that's.
There's some fabulous names in there.
Had to throw this one in here. I think this is the second year. It was my wedding. I've never been called a supremo before. Hey?
Ken and I were sitting on the same table at your wedding. I seem to remember, and this score got announced, and it was bizarre.
All the boys came down later. A lot of the boys came down later.
70 for 20. Yeah, I do remember that.
That was our first. We were sponsored by Basilica. To your point, I think that was our team. And then what interested me, Ken, actually, and I don't recall this, that we organised a tournament between Leicester Phoenix, Nottingham Trent University Old Boys, and Cheshire Police. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah, I do remember that.
That was interesting, wasn't it?
That was like in fact, I was involved with that from the alumni point of view.
Right.
Because obviously the Nottingham lot they'd not become Nottingham Outlaws. They were still Nottingham Trent University Old Boys.
Yeah.
Obviously, we were established. You obviously were established. Cheshire Police.
My brother was in Cheshire.
That's the connection with that. We played a game at your place, and then we went on to watch
Watford. There you go,
to the game at Watford. Yeah. Right. There you go.
A couple more. Then there's this. We played there's a rep side, and I just wanted to just pay homage to Ken Edwards, notably in the rep.
You in the rep side, Ken Edwards. Hey, look at that. I don't know why I'm surprised. I shouldn't be surprised, but there you.
No, should anybody? We had four players then.
I was carrying substantially less timber. It was a little more mobile than him these days.
I tell you, there's a name on that one that you've just put in, just gone past there. Tony Williams from Birmingham. Here's a fascinating fact for you. Tony was the first guy to score a point in the Southern Conference League.
Was it a drop goal?
Right.
It was a penalty. It was a penalty. Right. Okay. So the first point scorer in what was to become the Rugby League Conference was Tony Williams.
Well, there you go. There you go. Some decent players in that list.
Absolutely.
Don't worry, there's only another couple.
Yeah, and then very decent footballers.
To your point about splashes, there was the St Albans 2-page spread in rugby. And then what made me laugh at that, and some of the stuff I'm reading, Ken, is like reminds me. Do you remember I don't really remember this.
Idol.
Nigel Hukula. He made contact with He played for Papua New Guinea against the Aussies. He made an approach to us to come and play. And then Sam Wilson, who'd been on Prop Idol, he played. And actually a guy who didn't even get to that final, Aaron Kwong, who was a very, very good player. Big Aussie guy. He was there. And then
I tell you though. Okay, I was going to say, oh my God, there's a picture of me. Sent to Coventry. I was often sent to Coventry, but not just literally. I'd say. I remember there was one of those seasons. There was a side from Kazakhstan turned up called Strela, and they came to they were doing a tour of England, and we ended up organising 3 games against Scholars, Ipswich, and us in Leicester. And they had a guy that played for them called Robert Ilyasov, who was he was a Russian student player. He was a star player of like the emerging rugby league nations and so forth. But we ended up playing this game on a Friday night in Leicester against this team from Kazakhstan, and it was brilliant. We had the stadium. And these guys came with like gifts for us all. We had a traditional Kazakh hat and badges. But the best thing was that we in our naivety had not sought this out. They came with here's our national anthem. I thought, oh cripes, they're going to want to play the national anthem before the game. So we thought, we can do that. We've got a tannoy system. We went up there and thought. So I said to our club president, well, have you got a version of God Save the Queen? Because we're going to have to play that as well. Oh no, did you want one of those as well? I says, well, we can't play one national anthem. We've got to play 2 national anthems. And it ended up with the Kazakh national anthem being blazed out over this Leicester sky on a Friday night. And it was brilliant. They were all starting to attention like this, And it ended up, me and Howard, the Leicester president, singing "God Save the Queen" over the tannoy in the rapid hope that the players would turn up and start singing as well. But it was like, but see, Sky were there. Boots and all turned up. They were having this coverage of all the time. It was just brilliant. International, we're international. You know, we've gone international. It was
as a little aside, mate. I played against Strella in Kazan on a tour of the Scholars end of season tour. Sometime in the late 90s there, I think. Might have been just after that. I think there might have been a reciprocal game organised. And that was an interesting experience, mate.
Was there anything more you wanted to share with Julian and the viewers on that particular trip, Ken? Anything you wanted to share?
There's absolutely nothing I'm able to share in a public forum. It was a very interesting experience, mate.
Interesting experience.
Involving a lot of coats.
It was a freezing cold experience. There wasn't a blade of grass on the pitch, mate. I can tell you that. And I remember I thought I was going to score a try, and the lines were marked out in blue food dye. It was played on snow. There wasn't a blade of grass to be seen. And I remember I thought I was in for all money. I was going to score, and I was playing in tracksuit trousers with the shorts on top. It was freezing. And it's starting to melt a little bit because it was about Easter, and my foot went straight through what was obviously surface ice. Into maybe a foot of icy cold water. And of course, I was going at the speed of light because you know how fast I used to be able to run.
Yes, Cam.
And I slowed down to perhaps could be described as a trundle. I was absolutely belted by the cover defences, smashed to bits actually. So it was an unusual game. Yeah, it was interesting because you could see the little patches of blood all over the snow and the ice, as most of it was. Lots of scraped knees and elbows, mate. It was say it's a bloodbath, but it was.
Do you know we could have another podcast of similar ilk, just talking about reminiscing of general rugby league things. But we'll pull it back on. Pull it back to the RLC. We'll pull it back to the RLC. All right. I don't say I'm loving it, but so we started with 9 in the first year, and then we added a few teams. And then we started to add teams year on year. Now, what year were you involved until, mate? What was your?
I forget actually. I think it was 2002. I think 2003. So I think the last winners would have been Teesside when they beat Coventry, game that we played at Rugby, funny enough. Because we had a link with Rugby Council at the time, and there was a World Cup connection obviously around about that time as well. There was things going on in rugby. But yeah, I left at the start of the next season. And yeah, that from then on in, I sort of I had to distance myself quite a lot from it, really. But yeah, it was disappointing to go, but I didn't really have much of a choice.
Did you? So how did that come about then? I mean,
well, I think part of the problem for me was that my involvement, particularly with the Rugby League Conference, coincided with a massive dip in my mental health. And I was going through some quite horrific things mentally. And I basically, the Rugby League Conference became quite a traumatic experience for me. And I'd sort of, to the extent that like I considered it my sort of personal responsibility to ensure that every single player that took to the park for whatever club was not only properly registered, properly insured, there was safeguarding in place and all this sort of stuff. And it became such a massive traumatic thing every weekend. Were people actually doing what we told them to do? What about referees? Friday night, inevitably there will be a phone call from a club saying my referee can't make it. Can you find me another referee? And I was like, where the hell do I find a referee at 9:30 on a Saturday night to go to Thetford to play South Norfolk or whatever, And it just dipped. My mental health dipped massively, and so much to the sort that I couldn't watch rugby league for, I would say, a good 5 years after I left.
Wow.
Not even on the telly. Even now, there are times when I watch rugby league on the telly and it still brings back stuff. So I've never really talked about how much of a traumatic thing it was, and the part of it, I guess, was it was quite a difficult time in the sense that I built up a really good relationship with Greg McCallum, who was the guy who was charged with the Rugby League Conference. He was really supportive. He did some great things for us. He got the Rugby League Conference Lionhearts, the representative side was there. We need to be kitted out. Right, here's some proper kit. We need to get a trainer. We need to get a coach. We need to get a manager. Tracy, bless her, from Bedford came in as the manager. It took it up. But then Greg left. The reasons why he left, obviously some people, he was there one minute, he was gone the next. Bless him, and through no fault of his, but I lost him, and then it was all subsumed into, it was all those conversations about the national structure. How do we fit into this national structure? And I was saying some things without knowing whether. What did this mean? Were the RFL going to take this over completely? And what was Super League's involvement? Because Super League were putting up some money. So it all became really uncertain. And when Greg was there, he deflected all that, because I didn't need to be involved with any of that sort of stuff. And he dealt with it all, but then he left. And I never really felt secure after that. And that, coupled with
secure in your role,
secure
your well-being, your mental health.
both. Because I just thought somehow they're going to potentially take this back into, dare I say it, northern hands. They're going to take it within house, run it out of Red Hall or Barla HQ in Huddersfield or whatever, and there might well have been good sound reasons for it, but I was sort of like, we've only been going 3 seasons or 4 seasons. Now you're talking about where this aligns with this, and people kept asking me, what these clubs, what are they like? And I said, well, I think my obvious answer to most of us, well, come and have a look. All you've got to do is get in a car, go down the M1 on a Saturday, and you'll find a game somewhere. There'll be us playing, there'll be Nottingham playing, there'll be Luton playing, there'll be you guys playing, there'll be go around the M25, there'll be Ipswich playing. You've got plenty of games to go to. Come and have a look. But they were asking me, well, how are these going to fit into a national pyramid? And I thought, I can't really say.
No.
When I'm still having to deal with some people not doing things at the right time and the standard stuff. How the heck was I going to say whether a club that was good with us was somehow then going to be pigeonholed into this structure that was a bit kill or cure? So for me, I felt really insecure in that, and then my mental state collapsed literally. And I can remember the start of the next season, we had a launch, I think at a club in Coventry, I seem to remember. And there was there were some big guys there. Gary Tasker was there from Super League to talk about Super League's involvement. There was Julia Lee was there talking about, the RFL involvement. And I was having to talk about this, but nobody knew that I'd already resigned.
I see.
And I was told, you can't tell anyone that you've resigned, because that's not good publicity. The publicity's got to be positive. So I kept up this, but I remember having to do this speech, and I was nearly crying, and because I just thought, I was talking about what a privilege it was to work with you guys, and the standard stuff is great, and we're getting some great games on, and I knew that as soon as I finished this particular event, I was gone, and it was heartbreaking, but as I say, I didn't really have a choice. If I was going to be sort of mentally on the planet, I had to get away. But as I say, it reached a stage where Friday night was always rugby league night in our house. We'd all sit down, watch whatever game was on. I couldn't watch it.
Yeah.
Says, no, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch it because it's going to bring back memories of this. It's going to bring back this. I don't want to. I want to distance myself from it. So I just never went for 5 or 6 years straight after.
Did you? For the first 2 or 3 years, there was no problems. It was all. In terms of your mental health. It was in control.
It was getting bad. I mean, it was bad when I was still with Student Rugby League, the alumni, and all the stuff I was doing. You know, for that with all sorts of things. It was bad, and there were some times when it got really, really bad, but it was difficult to talk about. I mean, I remember I had for the 2000 World Cup, we were sort of every rugby league RFL member of staff, and I was one of those at the time, was like seconded to various jobs to help with the thing, and I was seconded to the New Zealand team to be with them all the way through as like a team liaison manager sort of thing. And I had a massive breakdown on one night, and to the extent that I hid myself in my room, because I was with them all the time, and I was likely to be with them because obviously it was New Zealand. They were likely to do the
well,
final. You know, they were likely. It was either going to be them or Great Britain playing Australia in the final. So it wasn't like, you know, the Cook Islands where you might be there for a week or two and then they're gone. I knew I was going to be with them all the time, and I had a massive breakdown in a hotel room in Gloucester, of all places. That's where we were. That's where we were based.
You picked the places.
And I thought, how do I get out of this? And the next day, I had to. New Zealand were playing Lebanon, I think, in the World Cup game, and I had to go and I had to sort this out and sort that out, and I wasn't on the planet. I was just all over the place, and so I remember. But I couldn't tell people. I couldn't tell them.
No.
I couldn't ring up Greg and say, look, I'm having this breakdown, and please, I need to. I can't be involved with this. I need some help. You know, I can't do it. So I went. I told a fib. I told the managers that I wasn't bonding with the team or something. I made up any excuse to get me out of that situation, and they did. They got me out of it. But that's when I knew, and it was really, really bad. And as I say, you know, every weekend when there were games on, I was like,
there was something going on.
I was a wreck. I was an absolute wreck at times, and it just wasn't the right thing.
Well, do you think if that was happening now, you know, in the world we live in now, and the men are much more open about their mental health and more happy to talk about things, do you think you'd be in a different position in the sense that you'd have more people to talk to, be more confident, and perhaps?
I mean, that's the really good thing is, you know, about a story such as what I've just said is that, you know, I don't think that would happen now. I think, you know, both within the game, with state of mind, and outside the game, I think, you know, people are much more supported to be open about their mental health. I would have had, you know, 20 years on, 25 years or how many years it was, blimey, on from that, you know, I would have had no hesitation in being able to say if I was still in the post like that, so I'm struggling with my mental health. Okay, I've got no problems declaring this as, I can't do what you're asking me to do. You need to do something. I need to do something else. But then just couldn't do it. You know, I just thought, how do I talk about this to, like, you know, the New Zealand manager who's sitting there saying, you know, you've got all these players there and all the rest of it, and then I'm saying, look, I'm sorry, but I've just spent, you know, an hour crying my heart out of my room. I thought, how do I say it? So I just didn't, you know.
I think it's a lot more common than people realise, and
absolutely,
we talk a lot more about mental health now, and it's something that we talked a little bit about your first book, but people may not be aware that you've written another book, A Year in Melancholia, Living with Mental Illness. What was the genesis of that? Was it perhaps your experience like in Gloucester?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, ever since, I mean, I was diagnosed with depression very, very soon after I left the Rugby League, and I guess from then on in, I'd always been quite open, well, very open about my mental health. I wasn't obviously before I was diagnosed, but you know, once I got a diagnosis, I thought, you know, I'm going to try and be open about it. And so Year in Melancholia was just like, you know, people kept telling me, you know, well, you know, day-to-day life, what, you know, how do you do it? Because people sort of saw mental health as being, you know, the really down bits, you know, so there's, you know, thinking suicidal and, you know, big breakdowns, depressive episodes, periods of psychosis, the, you know, the really panic attacks, you know, self-harming, and it's not always like that. And so I thought, you know, people say, well, day to day, you know, how does it affect you? And I was doing some stuff in the media and talking about it, and at the time it was really pivotal because I think, you know, there weren't that many men talking about it, but I felt I need to. So I thought, well, this book, you know, let's just do a diary of like every day for a year. So I think it was 2016, I think I did it. So I did a diary, January the 31st to December the 31st, every day, you know. And so it was some of it, well, all of it was, you know, how I dealt with day-to-day stuff, you know, even the routine stuff. And people, you know, because I just thought people don't always realize that getting up is a challenge, that, you know, cooking some food, you don't feel like doing it, you know, you lost your motivation, that, you know, the phone goes and you jump out of your skin, you know, and it's this sort of stuff that people I thought needed to know.
Yeah.
So I wrote that book, and I mean, some of it is it's not all doom and gloom. It's you sort of like, you know, there's some funny stories in it. Some funny, I take the mick out of myself quite a lot because I think it's important to sort of try and keep that sort of sense of humour going. And I can't take the mick out of someone else, but I can certainly take it out of me. And I think within the book I do talk about rugby league. Obviously it wasn't majorly part of my life in 2016, but you know, I think I did talk about what I'd gone through a little bit with the New Zealand situation, and I just guess you know the stuff I've had back from it is all about, you know, encouraging people who might be struggling just to sort of, you know, pick up a phone and talk to someone, or, you know, find someone that you trust, whether it's a mate, whether it's your partner, whether it's a work colleague, whether it's it's a teacher, if you're a kid, you know, just tell someone that you're struggling.
Get outside, get into nature, do something.
Absolutely, do something, you know, and you know, it talks a bit about what I do. You know, I like going out into nature, taking lots of pictures of stuff. Obviously I like my sport. My sport does those sort of things. But I think you know, when I look back at that period when I was involved in rugby league, I think my one regret is that I wasn't at my best when I did it. You know, would I, you know, if it was 20 years on now, would I have felt so personally responsible for things? Probably not, because I would have rationalized things a lot better, but it was just delusion. That I just thought, you know, every single player, or not just every player, every single person that frequents a rugby league game under the jurisdiction of the Rugby League Conference, I am personally responsible for. So if somebody slips in a clubhouse and damages their ankle, it's my fault. You know, a player plays and gets an injury because they've been asked to play in a side that where there's, you know, one team's only got 13, another one's got 17, so the guy's got to stay on the pitch. You know, I used to, and so when you had people ringing up saying, look, I've got 13 players, the opponents have turned up with 17. 2 of my players are, you know, I've never played before. I've just got them on the thing. Do you think I should play? And I'm thinking, don't ask me. I don't know. I really don't know. But I felt personally responsible for it. So, and it was just even though people say you can't be responsible for you know what clubs do. You know, I can, to a certain extent I can tell them what they need to do, but I can't be responsible to whether they actually do it or not. Because certain checks you can do, certain checks you can't do.
Yeah.
So do you think,
and it's
Jules,
got
do
too
you
much,
think,
mate? You know?
bearing that in mind, so you think it sounds like you're in a better position now than you were back then?
Yeah.
And from a rugby league perspective, do you see yourself being involved in rugby league again in the future, or even the distant future?
I don't think so, Ken. I mean, it's interesting. I've had people, Alan Robinson from Coventry, Ron Banks, still in touch with those guys, great guys. What fantastic stuff they've done at Coventry, unbelievable. And Robbo recently said, do you fancy coming back in? And I was tempted. But then very, very quickly, I started, it's PTSD, classic PTSD.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it all started to well up again. And I thought, I can't do that.
You got to listen to that, mate. You got to listen to that inner voice, haven't you?
So you have. And it's not that I don't want to be involved. I would love to, but I'm just not well enough to be able to cope with it, I just take too much on my head, on myself,
So if there's no personal rugby league involvement going forward, dare I say, is there another book still left to be written?
Well, there's probably not on. I don't know about rugby league, whether to write on rugby league or not. There are a lot. I've got some book projects that I do want to get on. I do want to do. Rugby league now is for me is very, even though I would always describe myself as a rugby league man to anyone, and when people say, where are you from? I'm from Leeds. You must be into football. No, not really. I'm a rugby league man, and say, very proud to describe it, and I'll watch games without that big dark cloud over my head now.
Yeah.
But I can't see myself going back into it. I've got opinions on it. Yeah, everyone's got opinions on it if they love the game, don't they? But it's it'd just be too hard for me to do.
Can I just interject, boys? I am absolutely loving this. I'm absolutely loving it. But we've already gone an hour and 15.
We have.
No, it's been absolutely fascinating. So can I suggest that we meet again?
Absolutely.
As I've got a lot of questions that I
we'll
meet again. To be agreed. I'm sure the listeners out there would be really and viewers would be interested.
The listener.
But we're gonna finish on a slightly tangential note.
That's fine.
I don't know whether you saw, Jules, that we did a draw. So we had our best teams, and then
I did see that.
And then so we're gonna do two semi-finals today. Now, Jules, you're gonna be the arbiter of
which
how it works.
The better one, right?
I'll present two players, okay, two fullbacks, let's say, and you'll say, well, you may have some consultation with Ken, and I might overrule you both anyway, but. And I'm not telling you who these two teams are involved. So there's going to be two games,
okay,
and we'll get cracking. So you just say.
The idea is you pick who is the better of those two players.
Which is the better of those two?
In your opinion.
In your opinion, right? Here we go.
Do I have to justify my opinion?
Not necessarily, unless I ask you.
Or you volunteer it.
Gary Kemble. Right, here we go. So Gary Kemble, Michael Potter.
Gary Kemble.
Oh.
Ratu Nalago, this is Hull, by the way, obviously you'll have gathered.
Yeah.
Ratu Nalago, Jason Nightingale.
I don't know much about the first one.
I don't know.
I will go Jason Nightingale with that one.
That's fine, mate. I don't know who Nato is. Richie Barnett, Michael O'Connor.
Oh, man, how do you choose them?
Wow, absolutely. How do you choose that?
Richie Barnett, I have to say, it was when I was with you with the News. He was a real gentleman. He was such a nice guy.
He was a nice guy.
But that shouldn't get into my decision.
Well,
I would probably have to go with Michael O'Connor there.
Dual international.
Very good play. Had a stint at St Helens, I think, if you recall. Gary Schofield versus Steve Rogers.
Well,
an immortal.
I can't go any further than Scoey.
Oh,
so I've got to go with Scoey.
Yeah. The guy's a nutter. Paul Prendeville and Brett Morris. Paul Prenderville and Brett Morris. Obviously, we're on a wing situation.
Yeah.
Funnily enough.
Yeah, probably Brett Morris, I would say.
Brett Morris, yeah, no, I don't dispute that. What's your view on that, Ken?
I think he's a fantastic footballer.
Yeah.
I would heartily concur.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right, now we're getting to the halves. So David Topless.
Oh.
This is outside half. David Topless and Trent Barrett.
Oh, this is one of those, how do you compare players from different
It's almost
eras?
impossible, mate.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible.
It's like David Topless.
It's very subjective.
Was such one of those players that I can sort of remember from my very young days. We played for Wakefield as well, didn't he, David Topless?
We did. Classy player, very classy player.
But I mean, Trent Barrett is
oozes class. Yeah,
he is. He's an oozer.
Peter Sterling and Jamie Soward.
Oh, Peter Sterlo, definitely
Sterlo. Yeah, definitely. Mick Harrison, James Graham.
Well, the first one's got a great name.
Is he some relation?
I don't know, actually. It might be. You never know. Mick Harrison or James Graham? Yeah, I'm going to go more up to date. I think James Graham.
Yeah.
He was a fantastic footballer. Good commentator as well.
Richard Swain and Nathan Brown.
Oh, Richard Swain was another
quality player.
Very quiet off the pitch, Richard Swain.
Interesting.
But on the pitch, wow. So who's your one? Richard Swain.
Nathan Brown.
Oh,
Nathan used to have a lot big
blonde hair.
Big blonde hair.
And
he coaches
now, doesn't he?
Coach. Yeah, I'll probably go with Nathan Brown, I think.
Okay. Craig Greenhill and Craig Young. The Craigs. Craig Greenhill and
Craig brothers.
Craig Young.
I remember Craig Greenhill. I don't recall Craig Young. I would struggle with that one, to be fair. But
I think you played for Australia a number of times. I think you toured the 82
I'm thinking of a different Craig.
86 Kangaroos.
You thinking of Craig David?
Who am I thinking? No, Craig David. No, I'm thinking of Craig. Who's the New Zealander? Like 2000. Craig played for Wigan. What was his name? Craig.
Daniel Craig.
No, not Daniel Craig. Did he play for Wigan? I don't know.
Harry Jason Bourne's a big Broncos fan, we ascertained last week.
Is he?
Greenhill versus Young.
I think it's got to be Greenhill because I can't recall Craig Young. Really.
Willie Manu and Wally Fullerton Smith. Willie Manu and Wally Fullerton
Smith. I think Wally Fullerton Smith.
I would say so as well.
Yeah.
Keith Boxall and Gordon Tallis.
Oh, Gordon Tallis was a brute, wasn't he? What a
brutal player. And another good commentator.
I don't mean a brute as in you're a very nice man if he ever happens to watch this. Brutal football. Brutal football. He was fantastic. I used to love him.
Origin dragging bread hot.
Yeah, I think my recollections of Gordon Tallis are probably more positive than that. So I will go Gordon Tallis.
Yeah. And last one, look forward, Jason Smith versus Brad Mackay. Jason Smith. Didn't he play? Was he Roosters or no? Maybe not.
I can't remember. Jason Smith or Brad Mackay.
A bit of Canterbury as well, I think.
I think I would. I'll go with Mackay. I think.
Mackay.
Yeah.
All right. So
that's a real difficult thing, isn't it? When you've got players from totally different eras,
Well, you'd be pleased to know that game, Ken Edwards, St George 9.
Ken Edwards wins, does he?
I selected Tony
Franco Franklin.
I didn't want to say.
No. Right, we'll do one more. The next quarter final. Okay. Richie Barnett, funny enough, in a different position.
Right.
And Paul Wellens. You'll get the drift now.
Richie Barnett. Probably I'm gonna be patriotic and go with Paul Wellens.
I probably would as well, to be fair.
No, there's no point in being patriotic.
No, mate.
Oh, here we go.
Reece Williams versus Tommy Makinson.
Reece Williams or Tommy Makinson. Oh my God. I'll go with Tommy.
You got a Golden Boot winner, I believe. John Timu and Mal Meninga.
No, there's no contest there. Big Mal's got to be there every time.
Oh dear, this is awful.
Just to cut across you there, mate, I watched some highlights of the 1994 ARL Grand Final, as was NRL as we now know it, against Canterbury, and Mal Meninga was in his pomp. I think it was his last game, and he was on fire. What a fantastic era that was!
Man,
brilliant.
I remembered him though when he turned that one season he had with St Helens, and he was just
played 2 tries.
All those things when he's just like
Road.
pushing, swatting them off, and it's unbelievable.
And then he played for Australia, Old Trafford.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. I'm sold.
Sorry to cut across you there, Gary.
Tony Martin versus Jamie Lyon.
Oh, Tony Martin versus Jamie Lyon. Oh, God, Jamie Lyon.
Jamie Lyon.
Yeah.
Martin Afire versus Anthony Sullivan.
I've got to go with Chariots, haven't I? I think I have, yeah.
I would as well.
I think Anthony Sullivan was a great winger, but Chariots was like...
Chariots was the man.
He's the definitive winger, really.
Scott Hill, Paul Sculthorpe. Standoff half. This is at standoff half.
Yes. This is at standoff rather than loose forward.
Loose forward, yeah. This is standoff.
The
sublime Scott Hill.
Not that you're trying to lead me there. Got it.
No.
I don't know what made you think that.
No, I'm sorry, mate. I'm gonna have to go with Scully.
Wow, that's okay. Interesting.
I would have gone Scott Hill personally.
Oh, as would I. Clearly. Jamie Soward and Bobby Goulding.
Oh, Bobby Goulding, what I loved him to bits. Oh man, I can't not go with Bobby.
Bobby, this is a slaughtering. This is a slaughter.
Cheeky chappy, what?
All right.
But yeah, Bobby Goulding.
Mark the Spud Carroll and James the Jammer Graham.
Mark the Spud Carroll and James Graham. Oh my God, Mark Carroll. Manly? Did he play for Manly?
Souths, wasn't it?
So it was Souths.
And Broncos? London Broncos?
I'll stick with James Graham.
James Graham, yeah.
Yeah.
Great football.
Jason Hetherington, Origin and Australian star. Let me just add that. And Kieran Cunningham.
Didn't Jason Hetherington play against South London in some match? I've got a feeling he did. As some sort of like Aussie all-time Aussie.
If it gets your vote, I'll say he did.
Well, yeah, I think I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with because Jason. I know there is a connection with South London Saints, as they were. I think they played a game against some Aussie All-Star, and Jason Etherington was one of it. So
maybe he's a relation to Graham Harker. Maybe there's
Who knows? Graham Harker, isn't there?
Danny Ward and John Fieldhouse.
John Fieldhouse. I'll go there.
Antonio Calfusi and Andy Platt.
Andy Platt.
Judas Platt.
Just get off
went from Saints to Wigan, but then of course he then went to the Auckland Warriors. Went to the Auckland Warriors.
I'll go with Andy Platt.
Andy. Peter Gill and Chris Joint.
I love Peter Gill. Peter Gill. Chris Joint, I can never forget him lying on the floor at Old Trafford in the final second. And
that was it a penalty?
Was it a voluntary tackle? Was it a voluntary
tackle? That's right.
As I wanted Saints to win, I say on that day that it wasn't a voluntary tackle, but actually did look very much like a voluntary. But no, Peter Gill is too much of a Broncos icon for me. So
he's an icon, and then talking about icons, Jim Dimmock and Harry Pinner.
Harry Pinner.
A great ball handling.
You guys are showing your age, mate.
It's terrible, isn't it?
That's guys in our early 30s.
I've got to go with Harry Pinner.
You got to.
Great.
Right. Well, I'm not going to read because I've been knocked out. So that's
You've
fine.
been knocked out again.
Chris, Mr. Masturbates is through with his St Helens side. I look forward to it, seeing how it goes. Right, boys.
Wow.
We've had such a good time. Honestly, I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, an hour
and
a half
I think what we do, I've got through about half of my questions. So we'll reconvene
absolutely
at a later point and do part 2 of this interview. Our chat rather.
You're absolutely on. Absolutely.
And I'll just wish you guys a good weekend. Yeah.
Champion.
You too. Nice to see you again, Gary. Good to see you again, Jules.
Great.
Cheers, boys. Take it easy.
Yeah, looking forward to speaking to you.
Yeah, right.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bonjour.